Hi everyone, thank you very much for stopping by and returning to the old world. I thought we'd do something a little bit different today. Let's have a little bit of fun as a community, and I introduce to you the concept of the 500-point army challenge. Well, what is the 500-point army challenge? Well, the obvious bit I think is coming up with a 500-point list for an army for Warhammer The Old World. This can be any of the armies, whether legacy or supported. But this isn't about coming up with the most killy, the most effective force you can. This is all about coming up with the most interesting. No prizes for the winner, it's all just a little bit of fun. So how are we going to go about this? Well, using the Almanacs, Forces of Fantasy, or Ravening Hordes book, come up with a legal 500-point force. Bonus points for a good narrative and introducing interesting characters amongst your force. Once you've done it, let me know what you've come up with down in the comments below, and we will see how everyone's getting on. For myself, well, I've had a go at putting together a Brettonian force. What is this Brettonian force? Well, the Brettonian army does seem to have quite a few restrictions which need to be met and make it reasonably challenging, I think, to come up with a 500-point force that's got much variety. So I've started off with a Baron mounted on a barded warhorse, lance, shield, heavy armour. He's supported by 6 Knights of the Realm with full command, 21 men-at-arms, full command, and a monk with the triptych, and he also has a squad of 5 mounted yeomen mounted with light armour and led by a warden. So far, so standard. So what is their story? It was a dark night. The winds was rising and clouds formed upon this sorry band. Surely the crimes of Sir Gaston Lejeune weren't so bad that he had to flee into the night like this, gathering around what band of followers would still support their dishonoured lord. Men with no honour, no dignity, or just a desperation for wealth and fame of their own. Men that would follow him into exile, to carve out a new land, a new home, deep in the border princes to the south. They say that the 8th son of an 8th son in the empire becomes a mighty wizard. But what becomes of the 2nd son of the 2nd son in Bretonnia, fair Bretonnia, where there is no land to inherit, and a knight is expected to make his own way, owning only the armour on his back, his ambition, and the strength of his arm. And so it had been for Sir Gaston, who had connived, cheated, and robbed, all in a pursuit of establishing his own manor, something, to be fair, he had managed to achieve. But then he'd pushed the boundaries a little too far, and his fellow barons had turned against him. There would be no safety behind his wooden walls any longer. Most of the lights, those hand-chosen bodyguard of men that called him lord, had disappeared long before the gathering had been completed and the march to the south began. With him, a motley crew of followers, the most hard-bitten and degenerate amongst those that followed him. A small band of knights rode out through the puddles into the night. Their leader, Sir Luke, known most often as the Malevolent, his armour never entirely clean, his clothes never fully patched, a broad and tall man with a constant air of violence around him. To be fair, Sir Gaston was always nervous in the presence of his not-so-trusted lieutenant, but he knew that their interests were bound together. They would succeed all 4, and Sir Luke would keep the other knights in line. And as the rain began to fall, it was okay for the knights, who had some protection against the foul and deteriorating weather. That was less so for the peasantry which followed in their wake, those that had not gone into hiding or had been coerced into marching into the depth of darkness with their lord. A band of men-at-arms hefted their shields and what little possessions they owned, led by the monk, Father Francis. Although what Father Francis had done to deserve this honour of marching with Sir Gaston, none could truly say. He had appeared at the manor but a month or so before, and whilst seemingly a man of integrity, also seemed deeply burdened by some secret. Which monastery he had come from was not known. Why he stood by Sir Gaston in his dishonour was also unclear. But he had, and what little Sir Gaston had to raise the men's spirits and keep them thinking they were marching in the interests of the lady, well, it was all to be rewarded. Ahead of the motley band rode a crew of mounted yeomen, the worst of the peasantry, those most willing to do any dark deed required of them by their lord, scouting ahead of the front and the flanks of the moving party as they marched to a new life, establishing a new home, an adventure which they knew would lead to one outcome: the inability to ever see their homes again. So thank you very much for listening and hopefully taking part in this particular activity. If you've enjoyed this particular challenge and would like to see more videos like this, interspersing a little bit of fun and jollity amongst the more usual videos, it's really helpful if you drop a like and possibly, a subscribe as well. It's the best way to support small channels such as this. Once again, thank you very much for listening. I look forward to seeing what you come up with. I am returned to the old world. Have a great day.